All right, let's see who's first. Good morning. Who's here?
Hey, good to see you. Welcome back.
Look
by
who's
the
in the
way. I know,
office.
right?
For the first time in like
2
11
weeks.
days.
Yeah, it's been 2 weeks.
He's been home slacking.
Oh man. 2 weeks ago today, I took Samuel to college
Yeah.
and then got tested the next morning.
He brought COVID back from Oklahoma.
Oh my gosh. I think I had it before I went. But so yeah, today's day 16 since first symptom. Fun
I think
times.
you should be good.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
You're running again.
Yeah. Boy, I was and then it started to rain, So I don't like to run.
Well, it's God's way of saying, hey, Aaron, maybe not right now.
Maybe not yet. I know, right?
We're not talking to anyone yet today. Where's everybody at?
Oh,
did you guys forget the 9 o'clock? Is everybody at school? What's going on? I know my friend Elizabeth, she's back to school.
Yeah.
In Louisiana. But Laura doesn't go to school, and
Right.
Kay doesn't go to school. And
who knows?
they must have forgot about us this morning.
Well, it happens,
So, as you can see, I am wearing my purple today.
Yes.
Today's a big day. It's our first official scrimmage.
Okay. Who are we scrimmaging today?
Corsicana. We get to go to Corsicana.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, super
It's
excited.
an away scrimmage.
Super excited about that drive.
Right.
It's only an hour and a half away. I say only, but
it's a weird hour and a half.
It's a weird hour and a half. Yeah.
So are you going to take 20 and go down 45?
I'm going to take,
or do you cut through?
I'm going to plug it into Waze
and see what it tells
I'm going
you.
to see what it tells me at 4 o'clock.
Let the machines tell you.
Yeah.
Machines are running the universe.
They're well, they can see things better than I can.
It's the collective nature of information.
I could pull it up on MapQuest.
Map what?
Yeah.
We haven't used that since 1997.
It's a thing still, though.
It's not.
It
really.
Is. It is. Where do you think Waze gets their information from?
Google. They bought Waze.
Did they really?
Yeah. Google owns Waze.
Well, Waze is so much better than Google Maps. I don't like Apple Maps either.
Right. You're a Waze guy.
I'm a Waze guy.
Yeah.
Waze tell me when there's cars stopped on the side of the road, or there's junk in the middle of the road, or police reported ahead.
If I plug in, then it's Android Auto, and so which I think is Google Maps, so it just tells me wherever I need to go. So with as much construction going on, sometimes it's even hard for that to keep up.
So hey, you know what I'm looking forward to this weekend?
Not running around like a chicken with your head cut off.
In-person preaching.
Right. Hey, I am too, by the way. I am too, by the way.
Somebody's taking the last 2 weeks off, preached from their office on Saturday afternoon. And
off is a strong term to use.
No, he was far from off. Far from off. It's been weird though. Normally we'll come in here on Mondays and we'll just talk. Well, this Monday I took Carter to school.
And last Monday you were taking.
Last Monday I was in San Antonio. College week. And so this Monday turned into Tuesday, but we were on the phone for what seemed like forever. I don't talk on the phone.
Right.
Like I try to get off the phone as quickly as possible, but we were on the phone for like 45 minutes. I don't even talk to my kids that long. Or my wife. That used to be our thing when I was still in the Navy. I would call Joanna on my way home from work. And we'd always talk for like 30 solid.
Right.
All the way from, me getting off work until
you got to the house.
Until I walked into the door and I said, hey, how are you? So it was nice.
Right.
So I heard a little colloquialism. And I think there's a good biblical.
Okay. Hit me.
So there was this old man and he was at a prayer breakfast, a little country town.
Yep. Is this the biscuit story?
It is the biscuit story.
Yeah, tell the biscuit story. I love it. I think it's great. I've been looking for a place to use it.
Right here, right now.
There you go.
I used it last night, actually.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Tell the story, though. I don't want to ruin it for those who haven't heard it.
The pastor that's there asked the old man, shepherd, to pray.
Yep.
And he stands up and begins to pray and says, God, I hate buttermilk.
I don't like it either.
Preacher looks at him like Aaron just looked at me. The old man continues on, God, I hate lard.
Yeah.
Kind of looks up at him again and He's giving him a look, and maybe I shouldn't have asked this guy to pray.
Right. What's in this guy's coffee?
Guy gives up the third time, says, God, you know what? I don't much care for dry flour either.
Now he's nervous.
Now he's just like, where is this guy going with this prayer, if you will?
So negative.
He says, God, I sure do love biscuits.
That's right.
And sometimes, God, I don't see the biscuits that you see. I don't see the hardships that you put me through or that you allow me to go through.
Yep.
I don't see the trials and tribulations as future growth.
Yep.
Add a little heat to it.
All I see is the lard.
All I see is the lard. Or all I see is some nasty dry flour, some chunky buttermilk. I don't know how people drink buttermilk.
My wife likes it.
And
it's like it settles her stomach. I'm like, well, it does the opposite to mine.
Joanna's granddad would have a cup of buttermilk every night before bed.
Coats and soothes the stomach. And
I love buttermilk in biscuit form.
Oh, I love it in biscuit bowl. Don't put it in a cup and expect me to drink it.
But I mean, look at our daily lives.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
We're going through some garbage. God, I hate COVID. God, I hate the sniffles. God, I hate. Where's the biscuit in COVID?
Some of us are still trying to find that.
Where's the biscuit?
Yeah.
Where's the biscuit? I mean, I don't.
Oh, I think if you're seriously asking that question, I think that we can find some nuggets of gold in the midst of all of this. I think we found out what's really important and what isn't.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's it. I think that is something for us to hold on to. Is we found out what we had to do and what we didn't have to do.
What's important, what's not important.
Absolutely. Whether that is in your personal schedule or whether it's at the organizational level of scheduling.
Mm-hmm.
What has to be done? What doesn't? What do we do but doesn't have to be done?
Right.
There's a lot of stuff we do doesn't have to be done. It's just what we always have done, and it doesn't mean we have to continue to do that. And we can thrive on less. Less is more.
Yeah.
In this new wave of culture and the breakneck speed at which we all live our lives, sometimes the simple is best.
And doesn't it seem like we want to get back to the breakneck speed of life?
I know for some.
Doesn't it sometimes feel like we just want to keep adding and keep adding?
Yes, that's all we ever want to do is just we want to get back. Well, why? What was so great about that?
So it kind of reminds me.
What was so great about 19?
It kind of reminds me of running a soundboard. Now, hear me out. So when there's a full band on stage, I'm talking 2 guitars, drums, bass guitar, 3 singers, keyboards, everything. The instrumentalist will say, "Hey, I can't hear this."
Right.
So I turn it up. Well, now I can't hear this. Turn it up.
Right.
And now I can't hear this. Turn it up. And before you know it, everything is so loud that I can't even control the house sound.
Right. Because
the stage sound is so loud.
Right. Right.
So sometimes we just have to rethink it and say, you know what? Let me just bring everything down.
Right.
Let me just bring all the noise down at once.
Yeah. Instead of the one thing you can't hear, let me bring the other things down that you are overhearing.
We never think about life like that.
No, we don't.
What is the noise that's getting in the way
of the more important?
From me hearing what's more important.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So maybe in my ears, I can't hear my guitar because the keyboard's too loud. What do I need to turn the keyboard down or the guitar up?
Well, modern theory would say turn the guitar up, but
right.
I like where you're going with that maybe we need to turn everything down and rethink it.
Just bring it all down to a base level.
Mm-hmm. Unity is what they used to call that on the soundboard.
It still is.
Yeah.
Yeah. It still is.
When you get out of unity, then everything gets weird. There's something to say there too.
That'll preach. That'll preach.
So yeah, that's the reality of where we are is getting back. I was antsy to get back to the office, and I had to keep reminding myself, what can I do there that I can't do here?
Yeah. Other than see people that walk in the door.
Other than see people that walk in the door. And for the last 14 days, I wasn't needing to
They
do
probably
that.
don't need to walk into your door.
They didn't need to walk into my door for the last 2 weeks. But, you know, and COVID since March of 2020 has reminded us of, and me, what has to get done.
Mm-hmm.
What has to get done, you know, as important as Sunday school is to a Baptist church, we didn't have it for the longest time.
Right.
That did not mean relationships didn't continue.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I would suggest to you that in some cases and in some classes and departments, relationships got stronger as a result.
Because you had to work at the communication.
Because you had to work at the communication. You had to work at the relationship. You didn't have the natural phenomenon of every Sunday morning.
Right.
And hear me out, so to speak, I think that we, in some ways, were better off when we were forced to work at it and not take it for granted.
Yeah, because we do. I mean,
we take it for granted. Well, they're going to be here.
It's easy,
and
I'll just see them Sunday.
Yeah, and what if you can't? And I think COVID taught us, what if we can't see you Sunday because you're sick, or we're isolated, or we're quarantined, or we're dead,
sick,
or we're dead.
Or we're dead. Yeah.
I mean, my wife and I still have brought up a time or two. Our speaker at Falls Creek is dead now.
Yeah, 5 weeks ago.
You know, and it's crazy to think about, and it's not like, oh, okay, preacher had COVID, so now he's all aware now. No, I'm not like woke on COVID now. I've known COVID is a problem. I've known COVID is an issue. You know, we didn't go through all the hassles of the last 18 months of everybody being cranky about what we can't do for me not to be aware of the realities of COVID. But sometimes a parent has to make a choice about the children that the children don't like because they can't see the forest for the trees.
Because she's trying to make some biscuits here.
And that's just the reality of it. But it doesn't mean that we're worse off. I think in some ways we're better off. And I'm not ready to go back to the full-blown schedule we had unless we have doggone good reason to do so. Because I don't think we should. Because we just take it for granted. And then we just add more of this and add more of that and add more of this.
We just keep turning the soundboard up until we can't hear anything.
Absolutely. And you can't hear anything. You can't hear God. You get so busy being religious, you can't hear God anymore. And that's where
sermon number 2 today. That will also preach.
I mean, yeah. Several of these are the sermons that we're probably going to hear the first of the year. So, unity, diversity, community.
He's already thinking. You got 11 weeks coming up through Hebrews.
I do. Yes, we're gonna preach through
Hebrews 11.
One faith that led them all.
It's my favorite chapter in the Bible. Yeah. It's okay to have favorites, right?
It is.
I have a favorite verse.
It is, and you have a favorite book.
I have a favorite book.
Yep, and I have a favorite chapter. Hey, full disclosure, you and I were in one of our discussion times, and when we were talking about the needs of the church moving forward, and you brought up, I had 2 or 3 different things churning in my brain, and you said, hey, what if we did that? And I thought about it and prayed about it. That's where we're going to go.
You know,
it's a collaborative effort.
We sometimes have a tendency as a New Testament church to forget to go back to the Old Testament sometimes.
Well, yes.
Not that we forget to, or not that it's not important.
Yes.
But, everything points back to Jesus.
And I think it was interesting if we disclosed the whole conversation that we had, that I was thinking I needed to, I've been in the New Testament a while. I was praying that God would reveal to me an Old Testament series. Yeah. And you're like, but we're a New Testament church. Just preach out the New Testament. I'm like, yeah, but the Old Testament is important too. And you were like, yeah.
It's true though.
So we compromised. We're going to do Hebrews 11, but look back at all
Hebrews 11 takes you back to all the heroes of the faith,
to all the Old Testament characters.
Yeah.
So
that's another word I can't stand is characters. Like Bible characters. Because it just sounds,
I know.
It makes it sound.
It sounds like senior lit.
Yeah.
Senior literature. Yeah, I know.
It makes it sound.
But it is literature. It is literature.
I use the term people.
Yeah.
Like we were talking last night. I forget how it came up. We got so off script last night, and it was okay. It was our first big night back together.
Right.
Everybody
Right.
was there, and we had dinner for the first time in 18 months last night, and it was good.
Good.
It was simple, just tacos.
That's okay. Simple as okay.
You know, we talked about, well, Peter came up. Peter from the Bible, not Peter Wright.
Okay. Peter from the
Peter
Bible.
from the Bible came up.
Peter the person, not the character.
Yes, Peter the and that's what I was emphasizing. So Peter's not a character in the Bible. It's not something that's made up. It's not someone that's written in to a script. Peter was a real dude.
In the same way that I have made the choice in speaking that oftentimes I use the term episode in the life of Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
You probably heard me say that. I used to say, let me tell you a story. But that language has changed so much in the last 30 or 40 years that a story is something that's false.
Right. It's made up.
And I grew up in the country.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're telling a story, it means you're telling a lie.
Yeah.
And stop
telling stories there.
Stop storying, you know?
Yeah.
And I know that's a rural thing, but city folk may not catch that. But I've started to use episode, and I think it falls in the same line as what you're talking about. Talk about Peter as a person,
right?
Not a character in the Bible,
right?
Because I do think that we have to be careful not to present Scripture in a way that seems fictional, because it's not. It's truth, and everything that happened in that. Our belief is that everything that's there actually happened.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter that I can't explain some things. It happened, and that's the way it was.
God said it, I believe it.
Yep. And
more appropriately, Jesus said it. For me, as a New Testament believer.
Yeah. Speaking of Jesus God issue, I had a friend that he posted a question on Facebook that he said, he'd been listening to a lot of worship music on that particular day. Paul Stoller, if you listen, you can chime in here.
Well, your buddy Greg Merckx is on, so.
And he made the comment, he said, I was listening to a lot of worship music today, and he said, I hear God, Lord, Him, Thee. He said, I haven't heard the word Jesus in a song all day. He said, is that something new, or is it just the selection of songs that I happened to choose this particular day did not include Jesus? And is that a trend that we're moving toward because Jesus is where it defines things?
Yes, Jesus is Christianity.
You can talk about God, and that can mean a lot of things,
right?
Or you can have a love song and never mention the name God, but of course, that's who we're talking about. Well, it plays on the pop side, so
exactly.
Are you sure that everybody understands you're talking about God?
Yeah, and even when you say Lord, I mean, it's not.
Yeah, but what does that mean? I mean, I watched Downton Abbey. There's a lot of lords in Downton Abbey, so.
Yeah, I don't watch that.
Yeah, well, it's not on anymore, but I did watch it when it was on.
I always thought it was Downtown Abbey.
Yeah, right.
So I didn't really pay much attention.
Where's Uptown?
Yeah, where's Uptown?
Where's
Abbey?
Uptown Abbey? No. But I just, I haven't done my own investigative work on that, but it makes me wonder, is there a shift? Is there a change? Is there something going on? The language changes.
It does.
You're talking about storying and, all this other stuff, telling a story or characters versus people.
Mm-hmm.
And language has certainly changed over the years. I mean, the way that we use terminology today is different. And if there's one thing that I think creates more consternation in organizational life, whether it's your workplace or your church place, mm-hmm. It is the way different generations use language, whether it's the actual words they use or the forthrightness by which a younger person will speak. We grew up, and specifically in the Navy, you grew up that feedback is a downward motion.
Right.
Yeah. But today's teenager, young adult, feedback is a two-way street now, and managers and bosses are having a hard time
Struggling
hearing
with that.
feedback on the chain up. So an older person that's sitting on a committee in a church
Mhm.
that is with a millennial that's also on a committee, which, by the way, millennials are not teenagers anymore. Millennials
they're
are now in their 20s to 40.
Yeah, late 20s.
Gen Z are
mid-20s.
your teenagers, so just for those listening. But anyway, it's hard for them to hear. If
They'll never be as good as us Gen Xers, though.
right. It was weird. We're small in quantity, but we're large in quality.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
You know, but they have a hard time.
And humble.
They have a hard time hearing the feedback. Oh, absolutely. We have a hard time. We're excellent at humility.
Yeah.
But if I do say so.
I mean, I would agree with you.
Yeah, right.
Can't say that.
But they have a hard time that if the millennial will speak up and speak out
Mhm.
and call them out on something, it's super hard to
I have
hear.
a story for you offline
about
about this exact. You know, I have two sons that are teaching now.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
And they're both.
Are they learning that the theory of it all that they learn doesn't always play out in the practical life?
See, we have to have this discussion offline. I can't let anybody. I can neither confirm nor deny.
Well, I was 26 once too.
Yeah.
I was fresh out of seminary, went to the first church that God had called us to full time.
Mhm.
And it took me about 6 minutes to realize that everything I had learned in seminary, that was great for the 25 minutes I was on stage.
Right.
But the other 142 minutes of the week,
Yeah, they don't teach you how to.
it had nothing to do with it. I was learning on the fly.
They teach you how to preach. And
They do. They do. And if I could change one thing at seminary is to help shape the reality that, yes, preaching is one thing that we do in that chair.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of other things
There's a lot of
that
things.
you want to call secular leadership, but you need to be teaching how to do some of those things.
You have to make tough decisions.
Well, you got a budget.
Yeah.
I mean, because of my managerial experience in the workplace before I went to preaching,
Mhm.
I was thankful for that because I drew heavily on that, for a long
Sure,
time.
you understood some things.
Because I knew some things. If I hadn't had that experience, oh, God help us all, because it would have been tragic, or in the words of people today, a dumpster fire.
Dumpster fire. Yeah.
It would have been such the fire. But I think that we need to be providing a balance of this at the seminary level. Don't rely on, and especially if you've got people that are coming in out of Bible college where they didn't learn it there either.
Well, it's so hard to learn real life scenarios outside of real life.
Absolutely.
Some lessons you have to learn on the job.
Right. Which if I had it to do all over, and I totally believe I was where God wanted me to be, doing what God wanted me to do. If I could look back on 25-year-old Aaron and go, hey, you might want to think about this.
Sure.
I would have certainly sought out an associate pastor role somewhere.
Yeah, to learn something.
At a mid to large level church, serve as the associate pastor for a year or two, and just watch and learn some things before diving in. And 2 years in associate pastor role would have taught me what it took me 10 years to learn on the fly. Not that I didn't have mentors and other people that I could have called and learned from. I did.
But it's hands-on experience.
Absolutely. And I would tell any young, what they used to call preacher boys.
Preacher boy.
I'd tell any young man that's seeking a pastorate role in life, get on staff somewhere. And if you can't get on staff, volunteer to be the associate pastor and just sit and serve and learn. It's not that we pastors know everything, but we know a few things.
Reminds me of a young football coach who was at practice the other day. And he went down. The freshman didn't get to practice. Marcus is coaching freshman football this year, if you don't know, for Crowley High School. But it rained.
Yeah.
Tuesday?
Every day. Every day but Monday it rained.
Tuesday, I think they rained out practice.
Yeah.
So the varsity and JV went into the indoor facility. So that meant the freshmen didn't get to practice. Well, once he got all his freshmen off into their parents' cars, he went over to varsity practice. And he's standing there watching the defensive line because he's a D-line coach. And the varsity defensive coordinator comes up to him and says, Warren, what are you doing? Learning.
Yeah.
Learning. That's all he's trying to do is learn. So he understands that.
Right.
Right. Because I think I kind of beat that into him.
Right.
But so many young professionals think they know everything there is to know because I went to school.
Right.
I learned this.
Right.
I did all these
and you learn a lot in school, but there's just some things you can't learn outside of daily practice.
Practical application is not something that they can teach you. I mean,
Absolutely.
You can go through, and this is just coaching as an example, but he didn't go to coaching school.
Right.
He was at school to be an educator.
Right. Is there such a thing as coaching school?
Yeah, they have coaching school.
Really? Cool.
2 days in
Okay.
San Antonio or Austin.
2 days.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are you going to learn in 2 days?
Basically, it's just a bunch of coaches that get together and talk shop.
Right. Well, I mean, there's some practical things to learn, but still, until you go back and put it into practice.
Yeah, I mean, you have to
literally into practice.
Into practice, yes.
You just don't know till you know, and I think that's life in general. And again, and it's because this is my project, but the generational issues. I mean, I've read six books this week. Since I've had COVID, I've read like 6 books in research. But this is where the breakdown's happening in generations. Now, you can call it church, you can call it the vocational place, you can call it community leaders. It doesn't matter. Anywhere you have differing ages of people,
Mm-hmm.
the young ones think they know it all.
Oh, right.
And us older ones forget that we used to think that
We
too.
used to think we knew it all too, yeah.
And we forget that. And so we come off bad because we're like, oh, well, instead of being humble and saying, look, hey, I've been there too. I've been where you are.
I know what you're feeling.
Right. I was like that. Can we talk? But instead we fight with our words instead of trying to encourage and build one another up in love and unity, according to Hebrews. But anyway.
Or you just power move and says no.
Yeah.
Get back in line.
Right. I'm the boss, you're not, go away. Yeah. And we're
I'm right, you're wrong, I'm smart, you're dumb.
Yeah.
Get in line.
And so we wall up, and instead of walking in the other person's shoes, we don't want to do that. And that's everybody. We all have to learn to walk in somebody else's shoes to figure out, okay, what's going on? Oh yeah, I remember that. I did that too. And
yeah, I mean,
yeah,
I've had this discussion with my youngest young professional about student teaching, and it being, we have to pay to go teach, right? You have to pay for that last semester of college,
right?
While you're doing your student teaching. And I says to him, Ryan, it's not about doing work for free. It's about gaining experience.
Right.
You're paying for the experience.
Right.
So that you can know how to handle certain situations when they do come, and you're all on your own.
Right.
And you don't have big brother or big sister over here saying, okay, Ryan, here's how you should have handled this.
Right. You don't have that teacher going,
right.
Hey, wait.
I mean, JT Vickery is going through that right now out in East Texas. I mean, yeah. I don't know if you saw JT's Facebook this morning, but one of his kids drew him he's a huge New Jersey Devils fan.
Yeah.
And they drew him a picture of the New Jersey Devils logo.
That's cool.
So he's making a solid, positive impact
out
there in Tyler. So good job. Good job, JT.
It's just, it's critically important.
So why don't we do that for preachers?
What for preachers?
Our last 6 months in seminary.
Oh my gosh. Don't get me started. They used to
assign them to a local church.
Here's the problem. We used to, when I came through seminary, they had a thing called field education.
Okay.
And it was a whole semester that you had to sign up and do this kind of thing. The problem is we messed it up because preachers have egos and they couldn't get over themselves. And so you would be, like I knew one person, unnamed, did their field ed work with a pastor in Fort Worth. I will leave that unnamed as well. And their field ed work, in the pastoral field ed work, consisted of researching illustrations for the pastor's sermon. That's all they did. That's useless.
What about this? No, I don't like it. What about this? No, I don't like it. What about this? No, I don't like it.
You know, and it's, you know, I thought it then, and I still think it now. That's useless. You know, let him, you know, why don't you have him, and maybe he did, and I don't know it, but I don't think it happened.
Yeah.
I've heard many stories of other things very similar. You know, let him write the sermon. Let him write a sermon and then give him feedback on that sermon. Okay, let's talk about that. How'd you exegete this? Why are you doing this? What's going on here? Then let him stand up and deliver it. And you know, I had the
yeah, because the research is the easy part. I mean,
standing up in front of 800 people is not the easy part.
No, not even a little bit.
You know, I had the wonderful opportunity of having Steve Gaines, who's now the pastor at Bellevue Baptist Church in Memphis, be my pastor when I was in college. And I went and I went and knocked on his door one day and said, "Hey, Brother Steve," it was Brother Steve back in the day, you know. And
well, when I was telling my biscuit story, I was going to make it totally fictional. Like it came from Brother Roy Weister.
Right.
He's our pastor back in Missouri.
Absolutely. And I said, you know, and he went on hospital visitation on Wednesdays. That's the only day he went. He had other staff that did other days. And so I would meet him Wednesday afternoons. We'd go, I'd get in his car, and he taught me how to go do that. Now, that was practical.
Right.
You know, that's field education. That's what needs to happen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we call it shadowing now.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I think that we've missed something when we don't do that properly at the seminary level.
Well, you just throw them to the wolves. And that's why so many young pastors don't make it past 3 years.
Right.
They're like, no, I can't do this.
Hubris has something to do with that, but lack of training has something to do with that too. And, you know, learning to get through those tough committee meetings sometimes. Mm-hmm. And it's just the way life is.
Yeah. Could you imagine if you had the opportunity to sit through a committee meeting as a young pastor, before you were the pastor?
Well, yeah, to sit and learn. You know, I learned on the fly, and you know, I was capable and able, and we did fine. But you know, it would have been nice to have had some of that experience ahead of time. You know, and hey, I served a church. I attended a church in seminary where, I worked in the RAs. I was in the choir. I was in the orchestra. I was in a variety of things. Never once was I asked ever to serve on a committee.
Right.
And I don't know if I would or wouldn't have at the time, but I was never asked ever to serve. And I don't know if it's because I wasn't in the in crowd, which is so problematic in churches today,
mm-hmm.
or was it because they're just a student. What do they know? Okay.
Probably a lot.
I may know a few things, but that's okay. Whatever. You know, but we do that. Oh, they're not old enough yet. Oh, they're not ready yet. Oh, they don't have enough life experience. Okay. But we're gathering together there are some committees in churches that are not power committees, and they're not, you know, difficult committees. They're not huge decision-making committees. Why can't we let people get their feet wet in these things? But anyway, I'll just drink my coffee. I'll just drink my coffee and move on.
Sounds like you've thought about this for a minute. I don't know. Let's address some comments here. What do we got? Good morning, Norma. Love you too, Laura. I don't have a favorite sibling, Laura. You know this. So I don't know if you've had chocolate sheet cake with icing that's, you know, 1/4 inch thick.
It's not proper if it isn't at least 1/4 inch thick.
But we don't call it anything but Granny's sheet cake.
Okay.
Because Granny's the one that she's perfected the recipe.
Exactly.
And now she's passed it down to multiple generations. The cake itself is just a chocolate cake.
It's just a cake. Yeah.
It's just a chocolate cake.
Getting that icing right though.
But to get that 1/4-inch thick icing that doesn't just melt on, it has to harden up.
Right.
It is science. I'm telling you.
It's an art and a science.
It is science. Now I'm an outsider. I don't like chocolate cake. Yeah. I don't like chocolate cake.
I'm not. How can we be friends?
I don't.
How can we be friends?
I don't like chocolate. I like chocolate chip cookies.
Oh my gosh.
But they're not my favorite.
I have to rethink everything now.
If I have 6 different cookies and I like all 6, chocolate chip will be the last one off the plate for me.
Okay, if you want to talk cookies, chocolate chip is not my favorite cookie.
Okay, let's rank our cookies.
Okay.
Number 1,
oatmeal raisin. There we go.
We're friends again. Oatmeal raisin.
Oatmeal every time. As long as it's soft oatmeal raisin.
Yes.
I don't want a crunchy oatmeal
I don't
raisin.
either. It's gotta be chewy.
I want a chewy oatmeal raisin. That's my favorite cookie, hands down.
Hey, Greg. This is Thursday morning.
Yeah, last Thursday, Greg was like, "Well, I don't know what we're supposed to." I feel like anything that comes up is what we talk about.
This is Thursday morning. Yeah, oatmeal raisin cookies and granny sheet cake. It happens, man. If you need to find your buddy.
I grew up in the Deep South, and chess pie was something that I really liked.
I don't even know what chess pie
Yeah,
is.
I know. It's hard for me to even describe it. But it's this yellow ooey gooey stuff with a little crusty on top. And it's probably called a bunch of things other places.
Is it not gooey butter cake?
It wasn't cake. There was no cakey to it. It was
gooey butter cake's not really cake either. It's
right.
just like,
it probably in Missouri, it may have been called ooey butter cake. In Tennessee, it was called chess pie.
Gooey. I don't know why it's gooey butter cake. It's like goo, right? It's just, I don't know.
So if you can't have oatmeal raisin, what's your next?
Snickerdoodles. Maybe it's a cinnamon thing for me. I don't know.
Yeah. I like snickerdoodles. I don't know that. I mean, I will. Of course, now we're getting specific on cookies. I mean, talking about homemade cookies or like store-bought cookies.
Homemade cookies.
See, we don't make a lot of options in our house.
I don't do store-bought cookies. I don't like store-bought cookies. They're too easy to make.
We don't do a lot of options in our house. We do our Christmas sugar cookie recipe, which I absolutely love.
Me too.
And we make a lot of chocolate chip cookies because I'm really the only one who likes oatmeal raisin. So if I want an oatmeal raisin, it's going to have to be a store-bought cookie because nobody makes them.
I'll make a dozen. It's okay.
Yeah.
They'll last a week. You can make 2 dozen. They'll last a week. There'll be some bread in your deal.
So
yeah, oatmeal raisin, then snickerdoodle. Then, and I just said I don't like chocolate cake. And I'm not a big fan of chocolate.
Yeah. See, I like fudge cookies.
One of my favorite cookies is a chocolate cookie with peanut butter chips.
Yeah. I'm about that. I'm all about the chocolate peanut butter mixture. It transcends so many different things for me. I like it in a lot of different areas.
I don't like chocolate unless it's with peanut butter.
Yeah. So
I guess if I had a piece of chocolate cake and I smeared it with peanut butter.
What if it had a 1/4-inch thick peanut butter icing on top?
I would probably be down for that. I would probably be so down for that. I would definitely try it.
It wouldn't be Granny sheet cake anymore, but it would be an alternative.
It'd be Granny sheet cake 2.0. Aunt Evie, I need you to figure out how to make peanut butter icing.
Just put peanut butter on it.
Laura, send this to her.
Get your creamy peanut butter out and
it's got to have the because if
it's got to be crusty.
Right. If your icing isn't right, then the cake's not
right. I get you.
And they always fight, my family. Anytime we have a family reunion, someone always brings a sheet cake. And they don't ever just scrape the bowl and lick the beater. No. They scrape the bowl and then they plop it on the cake. Right. So now there's big gigantic glob of icing somewhere in the middle of the cake.
Now, while I like peanut butter, things do not put nuts in cookies. I don't like nuts in cookies. I don't like nuts in brownies. I mean, you've ruined a plate of brownies if
walnuts are not dessert.
No, I don't know what they are, but they're not dessert.
Only dessert when they're made into their own pie.
They have to have their own pie.
Yes.
Or if they're candied,
Oh,
I'll eat some pecans candied. But I don't need them in my brownies or
Yeah.
my cookies.
No.
I just it's just not me.
Christmas is right around the corner, y'all. So this is very strategic. This is the one thing we discussed this morning about how we're going to get fresh cookies on our desk throughout the holidays. So
this is how it happens.
we didn't talk about that. We're hey, guess what we got next Friday night?
Like tomorrow or next?
Friday.
First home game.
Yes.
Fifth quarter. Need blue Gatorade.
Blue Gatorade. Blue Gatorades and warm bodies.
Yeah, we need volunteers and blue Gatorade.
Blue Gatorades warm. The football boys have been wearing me out. Mr. Keith, are we going to have fifth quarter? Mr. Keith, can we have fifth quarter? Mr. Keith, can we have?
And that's also going to be, and that's another offline topic to talk about too, because we're going to, the protocols that we need to put in place for safety, because, the football team have all been together and they're their own bubble pod.
Right.
But when you throw in all the other people, we might have to.
We don't want a super spreader.
Yeah, we don't need that. We don't need that. And man, Delta, gosh, between Afghanistan Christians being persecuted today and Haiti being underwater because of an earthquake and the Delta variant, your prayer life should be strong.
I don't want to get started on Afghanistan.
I don't care about the politics of it. What I care about is that there is a strong, growing Christian church in Afghanistan that is now going to face massive problems.
Actual persecution.
With a new regime in place.
They will be put to death.
Yeah, absolutely they will. Absolutely they will. And that's the concern I have.
There will be more dead Afghans in the next 2 months.
We could spend the next 2 weeks talking about which administration had it right or wrong, and I'm not going to do that.
Right.
I'll
go there all day. None of them got it right.
I'm just talking about I fear for the Christians in Afghanistan that had a luxury for the last 15 years they don't have now. And it's going to be tough, and I pray for them.
Yeah. We ended that one on a sour note.
Well, I mean, it's just what we got to pray for.
It's reality, though.
It's reality. It's where we are. So
life isn't fair.
No, it's not. Sometimes you just get a scoop of lard on your plate. Yep. So we'll be in Laodicea this Sunday.
Yes.
So, Yep.
I'd rather you be.
Reminds me of an old song.
So, are you going to use the river reference this week?
Mm-mm.
The hot or cold?
Mm-mm. No, not the river reference. No. I've used it before. I'm not using it today. And I've also talked about how Laodicea technically sits between a hot springs town and a cold springs town.
Yes.
And that I think I probably will mention about how
don't spoil it.
So often people get it wrong.
Yeah.
About that.
Well, yeah, because they don't understand the context of it.
Right. Mediocrity is the problem with them. And our word that we're going to look at for this week is awareness. We need to have a greater, I think Jesus wants Laodicea and thereby us to have a greater awareness about things. Mm-hmm. And I don't know that our awareness is as strong as it needs to be. So that's the topic. That's the topical word for this week. So tune in Sunday. Live. Unless something stupid happens in the next 3 days, we're supposed to be live. Stage. So, yeah. Did confirm that I'm baptizing Corey Hunzecker Sunday morning. Good deal. It's going to be a challenge. Corey is 6'4", 6'5". Yeah, he's a big old boy. Yeah. So that'll be fun. I might have to let the water do the work. I might have to stand on the stool. Let the water. Yeah. Sometimes the kids stand on the little thing. Now you're going to have to stand on the little thing. Hopefully his feet don't fly off from under him like mine did. It's always an adventure when you enter the baptismal pool. Well, if they lock their knees, you're over. It's done. They have to act like they're sitting down and everything's fine. Yeah. This is the practical aspects of things. Yeah, I didn't know that. Going in. And someone, I forget who even told me. He said, just tell them to bend their knees. Tell them to act like they're sitting in a chair and they'll be fine. Just bend your knees, go back. And then when you feel pressure on your back, stand up. Mm-hmm. It's not hard. It's too easy. But you got to know. You got to know. If you don't know, see, somebody didn't teach me that either. I had to learn that one on the fly. Right? You're going to drown somebody. Or you're going to flail around in the water. I had a quick
No,
story.
no splashing in the pool.
Quick baptism story. I was teasing this one. He was a little older child, and so I could tease with him. And I said, I said, since you made your decision for Christ, have you committed any other sins since your decision for Christ? And they're like, I said, no, you have to think hard. And they said, but why, Brother Aaron? It was brother back in the day. And I said, the more that you've done, and I'm going to talk to your mama before we go to the baptism waters. I said, but the more that you've done, the longer I have to hold you under the water. And he just looked at me. I'm like, dude, I'm just joking you. His mom was over here in the floor laughing.
So bad. Gosh, you can't do a kid like that.
He was older.
I mean, you can.
Yeah. He was older, and he got it. I wasn't doing a 7-year-old that way. I mean, It was an older child, but. And we had a relationship that we gave back and forth a lot, so it was fun. But anyway, all right. Hey, you guys have a great Thursday. Have a great weekend, and we will see you guys later.
Sunday.